Take your Okay. Well, welcome everyone to another one of our Community Voice webinars. So far, I believe we have had 4 different presenters for our Community Voice webinar series. So we're excited to continue having these. We have one more scheduled, and if any of you would like to share your work in Community Voice, we're happy to feature you as well. So just an overview of the Community Voice webinar series. This was a series that came from our Equity and Community Voice Committee, which is one of our committees we have for CFRA, and just kind of a need for CFRA members to have some frameworks or maybe some examples of how community voice is elevated within FRCs. And it looks different for each family resource center. So this is kind of a great opportunity for peer sharing and peer learning and best practices. So each one of these webinar series, we feature a different CFRA member, Family Resource Center, our community-based organization. And today we will have Ruya from Hillsides. And so I'll have her do her introduction once she gets to her slides. But she'll be reviewing coalition building as a strategy for elevating community voice. And just some introductions here. Michael Williams is our policy director. He'll probably be coming on a little bit later today. And I am the CFRA program manager. And I think I've met many of you before. And then we have Brittany, who is our program support. Okay, so let's just dive right in here. And if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, that would be great. If you could share your name and what organization you're coming from, that would be great. Okay, so as I said, we will have Hillsides presenting today. And then once they have finished their presentation, so once Ruya has finished her presentation, we'll have some time for questions and answers. So if you have any questions about the framework that she'll be describing or about her organization, kind of what the implementation of community voice looked like for them, it's a great opportunity for you all to share that information or ask questions. And then we have a couple of guided discussion questions at the end. I think we're not going to have too big of a group, so we won't do breakout rooms, but we'll just have some facilitated discussion questions for you all to respond to. It'll give us a good idea of what other frameworks you might be looking for community voice and what supports you might need. And then we always review each of our webinars, just talking about CFRA and how our mission and vision fits with the webinar. So our vision is to build a strong, cohesive network that promotes the success and well-being of families in all California communities. And as I'm sure you're all aware, community voice is a great opportunity to promote the success and well-being of all families by having them take on leadership roles and be supported in sharing their experiences and what their needs are. So our mission is to connect FRCs and networks statewide, and that's hopefully what we're doing here with this webinar and sharing best practices, and to convene leaders for networking and working towards a shared vision, which community voice is part of that, as well as equity, and then communicating the value of FRCs, networks, and programs that strengthen families to policymakers and to the state. And if you're not receiving our advocacy policy CFRA emails, please let me know so we can make sure to update your contact in our CFRA membership. But yeah, that's kind of our overview and how the Community Voice webinar ties into our mission and vision. Invite a couple more people in. Okay. And with that, I will hand it over to Ruya. Let me see here. There, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. All righty, let me get situated here. Okay, hello everyone. Can you see my screen all right? Yes, okay. My name is Ruya Sayim. I am a business development analyst with Hillsides. We are a multi-service behavioral health agency based in the Los Angeles County area. And so today, as part of the Community Voice webinar series, I will be diving into the services that we offer, one of which is family resource centers, and how we have utilized coalition building as a way to strengthen our ties to the communities that we serve, and elevate the voice of the communities. I also want to add too that Hillsides is a grantee of the FRC relief funding that came from CFRA. So that's how we're connected to them. So just a little bit more about Hillsides. We are a premier provider dedicated to healing children and young adults, strengthening families, and transforming communities through quality, comprehensive services and advocacy. So this is our mission statement. It really just guides the work that we do and fully encompasses what we aim to do with the work that we do. And then just some more information, more details. We were founded in 1913. We're a nonprofit serving complex and challenging children and youth with severe emotional and behavioral health disorders. We have over 350 employees. That's a little bit reduced from what we were before the pandemic. So we've kind of, we've reduced our workforce, but also strengthened at the same time. Our staff are skilled at implementing best practice approaches to integrating behavioral healthcare, education, and coordinated care management. We also serve around 17,000 children and families annually. So that really just touches on the scope of the communities that we reach with our sites all over Los Angeles County. And then lastly, we work across 4 core programs, and through those programs provide the highest quality care and treatment to create lasting change with the children and families that we serve. So in this next slide, I'll kind of dive into what those 4 programs look like. First off, we have our Hillsides Cares, which is a new service line that we've launched in the past year. With all the changes that came out of FFPSA, we had to really change what our residential campus looks like. And from significantly reducing our STRTP, we launched Hillsides Cares, which is a residential partial hospitalization and intensive outpatient program, providing psychiatric hospital diversion programs, really working with commercial clients and commercial payers. So because of FFPSA and the legislation that came out of that, we had to significantly pivot the services that we offer at a residential campus. So that's what that core program looks like. Second, we have youth and young adult services. So this is our Youth Moving On program, providing services to transitional age youth, which really came about when maybe a decade ago, I think, when we really saw a gap in the services being provided to youth coming out of the foster care system and really needing to provide additional supports to them. And so we created this program out of that need. We provide drop-in services, supportive housing. We have an apartment building that provides rooms and beds for transitional age youth that need that extra support. We also provide career services and workforce development. So really just a lot of support to transitional age youth that need that extra time with us before, being launched out into the world. Third, we have our foster care and adoption services. That came from a affiliation with Bienvenidos that happened in 2016. So that provides home-based family care, adoptions for children and youth, really just trying, a different service line to helping families stay together and providing resources in instances when children need to be removed from the home. So really just trying to strengthen healthy families and provide a safe space for children. Lastly, our family resource centers. We have sites all through Los Angeles County that provide family services, outpatient treatment, WRAP, and healthcare system navigation. So I know that most people on this call are probably familiar with these services. So this is really kind of what expanded our services throughout Los Angeles County. On this next slide, just a map of what our locations look like. We have a site up in Palmdale, all the way to East Los Angeles, and then out to the east in Montclair and Pomona. And then you'll see kind of the services on the right that are offered at each of these sites. So really, most of our services are provided through our family resource centers. Okay, jumping into what our coalition is and why we got involved and how it's helping us make an impact in the communities that we serve. So Hillsides had the opportunity to take on leadership of an already existing coalition in the East LA area. It was previously known as SPA 7 Community Partnership. When we took over, this was 2019. So really there was just an interest in expanding our presence in the East LA area and really just trying to get more involved in the community. In 2021, we rebranded to the Community Impact Alliance, carved out a new logo, a new slogan, a new mission statement. So fostering collaboration and leadership to elevate communities. So that's really the purpose of what we wanted to do with this coalition and taking it over. And so what it is, the Community Impact Alliance is a cross-sectoral coalition of community-based organizations that support children and families residing throughout the greater East Los Angeles region. A lot of these community providers provide a range of services from dental, primary care, insurances. We have connections with entertainment community providers, as well as like the Dodgers Foundation, for example. So really just connecting to all kinds of community providers that all have the same interest in connecting with the community that they're trying to serve. And so the Strategic Alliance creates a common platform where local leaders and stakeholders can come together and engage in community health improvement. The whole idea is to create a healthy community, a healthy environment. And so that involves so many different sectors and so many different aspects that we're really just trying to tie them all together into this one alliance, this one coalition, so that we all have this connection together when we're trying to make an impact in the community that we serve. It's also a way for stakeholders and other local leaders to get involved as well. We've connected with local legislature. So it's really just an idea of getting anyone that has a platform and has a voice to get involved into this alliance and this coalition, to then raise the voice of the community and the families that we serve through their different networks. And lastly, these efforts support and promote civic engagement in the building of social capital. So it's all about building those relationships and leveraging those connections. The basis of our coalition was really, once we took it over, we really wanted to formulate it around a best practice model. And so what we used is the collective impact model, which is pretty well known. I think it's been around for more than a decade now. And it's really just a best practice model for transforming systems and solving complex problems. They really transform how coalitions are formed and how they're framed, and really has transformed them into a way that they can make a bigger impact into the work that they're doing. And there's all different kinds of coalitions and they look different, but the way that they formed it is they have these 5 core principles. And so I'll go over them really quickly, but there's a backbone coordinating organization, which that's what Hillsides operates as. in this coalition. There's a common agenda for change, a shared measurement for data and results, and mutually reinforcing activities, as well as open and continuous communication. And so that's kind of the framework of this coalition. In addition to that, we have a steering committee, we have a board that really, each of those members come from different organizations, and that's kind of where that distributed leadership approach comes in. So it doesn't just all fall into Hillsides to carve out an agenda and carve out goals for this coalition. It's shared amongst different community providers that are part of the board or steering committee. And they represent different sectors in the community. And really the goal is just to come together and make an impact and achieve results in the community that we serve. So the specific pillars of action for the Community Impact Alliance, there's 3 main actions that we carry out in this coalition. There's monthly community provider meetings, newsletters and resource sharing, and lastly, community engagement. So we meet on a monthly basis virtually now. We gather community providers together once a month. We provide thought leadership. We invite speakers that aren't necessarily part of our membership. We invite them in to give presentations, share new ideas with our community providers, and it's really just a way to elevate new ideas and promote them amongst the community providers that are part of our alliance. We also provide, we call them community provider spotlights. So in addition to bringing in thought leaders, we ask one of our members to give a brief presentation about the services that they offer, as well as any important upcoming events or workshops that they have going on. And it's a way to then highlight specific community providers that are within our membership or new to our membership or new to our alliance. So really just providing that, that's where we provide that space for people to gather. With the newsletters and resource sharing, once a month, we send out a newsletter that shares resources in LA County and in the East LA community, events coming up, workshops that are relevant, really just a way to share information. As well as in the community provider meetings that are held monthly, there's a space at the end of each meeting for community providers to jump in and share briefly any messages that they want to get across to other community providers in that meeting. And I have to say, there's been I've heard so many stories of how community providers have been connected through our alliance, heard of new services and new resources to bring into their work. And so it's just been a really great way for them to get connected. And lastly, community engagement. So this has been a core practice in the coalition. But previously, before Hillsides took over, they held 2 annual community engagement events. And since we took over in 2019 and with the pandemic, we had to put those on hold, but we've recently gotten back to them. We held a community event last December, and then we just had one this past Saturday. So it's something that we're really trying to bring back because it is a core practice of the coalition. It's so important to get out into the community and show the work that we do and bring those resources directly to the community. So definitely a core pillar of action for the work that we do. So this is the top picture is what our community provider meeting looked like in person. I think that was taken in March 2020, right before everything closed down, I believe. So we would bring all of these community partners. We had 65, I think, at one point in person, provide lunch for them, have speakers ready for presentations, and really just sharing information and providing a space for people to come together and learn and also share their own ideas and ask questions and bring that back to their own organizations. And then, with the pandemic, we had to really shift what we do. And so we were up and running in May, virtually holding these meetings through Zoom. reaching upwards to 75 attendees. So really just a great reach that we had in the beginning. So this picture on the right is just our holiday gathering that we had in 2020. Really trying to incorporate fun, making sure that this gathering time it's a great time for everyone, not just resourceful, but also connecting on different levels. So we do have fun in these meetings. We learned a lot. We had to pivot, and now there's talk, of course, of coming back in person or holding hybrid meetings, or every once in a while holding an in-person meeting. So I know that everyone's going through these discussions now, but really trying to figure out how do we get back into person, but in a balanced way. And so still working that out, but we'll probably work on getting in person again, just because it's such a great way to connect and provides a networking aspect that virtually doesn't necessarily get across. And this is just some more information on our community engagement activities. So really the purpose is to engage the families in our community. We provide free items and share resources, and then strengthening healthy communities. So here are some photos from our December event last year. We provided grocery gift cards, free giveaway hot chocolate kits, a toy for every child that came through. It was a drive-through then because still COVID was around. We brought in community providers to participate as much as we could. But really it was just about gathering flyers and putting them in a tote bag and handing it out that way. But it was a really great way to get back into the practice of community engagement. This was a drive-through event, so it was a little different, but always, we're always pivoting with this coalition and trying to adjust as we go along. But it was a really great event. We served over 100 families, so really great impact in the community. And then here are some photos from our event last Saturday. This was a much larger event. We're really excited about it. Our first time partnering with the County Department of Public Health, as well as Los Angeles County Parks and Rec. So it was a really, really big event. We served over 1,000 children. Many families came through. There was a backpack giveaway for free, so really to get them ready for back to school started yesterday. We provided arts and crafts activities, raffle prizes. There was a DJ with dance activities. Food was provided and dancing. So it was a really fun event, as well as the community resources that we were able to pull together. So over 25 community providers attended with their own canopies and their own booths, providing information on the resources that they provide, flyers, free giveaways. There was groceries, COVID-19 vaccinations were administered, health screenings, groceries were provided. I think I might have said that, but it was very cool, very great event, very great event. And I know that the families really enjoyed it. So yes, we're really hoping to continue our engagement in the community, working directly with the families that we serve. And so why is this important? Why is coalition building? Why did we make coalition building a priority with Hillsides? What we found is that this coalition builds trust and consensus between the families that we serve, and as well as the other peer organizations that serve them as well. And so it's all about aligning our concerns and our priorities within the community and working together. It's a great way to, all the community providers that work with us, they have the families that they serve, and who better to know like what their priorities are and what they need. And we're the ones that are able to make those changes and provide those resources and see where the gaps are. And so this is what we've really been able to do with the coalition. really listen to the families that we serve out of our Family Resource Center and be able to connect with other community providers to see how we can fill those gaps and make those resources available for the families. Community providers are local leaders and connectors, so it's natural. It's just a natural way to connect in a coalition and meet with other community providers that have the same interests and priorities. And it's a way to really serve the people that are most affected by the policies, the systems and structures that are in place. In a way, we have the ability to enact change. And so I think that's why it's so important for us to be involved. And you know why I'm here today sharing this strategy with you all, because it's been so impactful and for the way that we share our resources with families in our community. And lastly, it's just a great way to increase access to resources and maximize community impact. So we're all trying to just create a healthier community, and it's been a great way to stay connected and work together. So the key takeaways that I want to share, you know, obviously this was different because we didn't build this coalition from the ground up. There was an opportunity to take leadership of one that was already existing. But once we took over, we really changed how it was formatted and reorganized it completely. So just some of the key takeaways that I want to share with you all in case this is something that you want to take back to your own family resource centers to, you know, as a strategy to use for yourselves. So most importantly, electing a steering committee has been extremely helpful. Having that distributed leadership approach within that steering committee is just so important. Hillsides by ourselves, we wouldn't be able to make the changes and the impact that we are able to without the shared leadership of those other community provider organizations that are part of that steering committee. Secondly, engaging stakeholders and policymakers. So once we first took over, we had a distribution list that was already existing, but we really took a look at it, looked at where the gaps were, added contacts, and reached out to other community providers that weren't already on that list, that they, you know, that might be interested. Also including the policymakers. It's so important. The supervisors of LA County, we've been in contact with most of them that are relevant in the communities that we serve, because it's so important to have them as part of the conversation and as part of the activities. It's hard to, you know, always get them involved necessarily, but we, you know, at least being on their radar is extremely impactful. Third, inclusivity and participation. One of the big changes that we made once taking over this coalition was completely canceling the membership dues. We really wanted it to be open to any and all community provider organizations that wanted to attend our monthly provider meetings or subscribe to our newsletters. So we definitely recommend opening your doors as much as you're able to, because that's been such a great way to just expand our reach and expand our communications. And then also getting them involved, the participation aspect. It's not just, you know, having them on a list. It's how do we actually bring them to the table and include them in the activities that we want to conduct or that we are conducting. And so important to just include everyone as much as possible, and then actively get them to participate in the activities. And then lastly, communication is so key, you know, with the newsletters that we put out, sharing information, saving that space in each community provider meeting for people to just jump in and just say a quick blurb about what they're doing and what their organization's working on. It's so key to getting the resources out there, connecting with other community provider organizations, and then getting those resources to the families that we serve. So it's really been such a great way to connect and network and really just resource share. So those are the key takeaways, our key pieces of advice for using coalition building as a strategy for connecting to the communities that you serve and really elevating the voice of the families that we serve. Alrighty, so this is the sort of the wrap up to my presentation. Just want to say we have many avenues for social media. I'll share these links in the chat in a bit, but we have a LinkedIn, we have a Facebook. We're really still working on building out those social media platforms, figuring out how best to use those with our community provider organizations, and then really trying to structure the way that we share resources on those platforms. But you please feel free to check out those links. And then we also have a, I want to call it a microsite because it's more of a landing page that really just shares the core activities that we do with our coalition. And there's also a link there to subscribe. So if you're interested, please subscribe. You'll be receiving our monthly newsletters as well as any other special announcements that come out. Really just staying updated with the work that we do with the Community Impact Alliance. And then I'll also share the email that we have for the Alliance. So if there's any way that you want to stay connected or get into touch with us, there's that email to do so. And that's it for me. Thank you everyone for being here today, listening to the work that we do with Hillsides and with the Community Impact Alliance. I've shared my name and my personal email there, so please feel free to reach out to me personally if you have any questions or want to chat further about how exactly the coalition works out of our FRC from our East LA side, and or just want any additional information on how we function in this coalition. So I'll pause there for any questions that anyone might have, or any comments that anyone might have. But while I wait, I will copy over the links in the chat box. Alrighty, I think I will stop sharing now, Victoria, and then hand it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Maria. That was great, just kind of seeing how your coalition was built. So just want to check in. Does anyone have any questions for Maria or any comments, any similarities to some of the work that you're currently doing?
I also just want to add, I know it's not very conventional for, a family resource center to be the lead of a coalition. I think that's definitely something that's pretty unique to the work that we do. But we've just found it so useful, operating out of our family resource center in the East LA site. I think it's just such a great way to be connected to the community. And, that's why I felt compelled to come here and share the work that we do. But I do realize that it's not very conventional, but it definitely met our purposes for wanting to get more involved and increase our presence in the community as well.
Okay.
Oh, I did get a direct message from someone. Sorry, it's kind of long. She's asking for any resources or documents willing to share outlining the governance or membership structure. We have like a roles and responsibilities document that we carved out with our steering committee. So that's definitely been a big part of organizing this coalition, has been the board organization part of it. So that really did take, carving out what the roles and responsibilities are of each board member. We have, or we did have a chair, but with recent employment changes, we now have 2 co-chairs. And so we did outline, the specific duties of the positions on the board. We have a treasurer, so there's a budget attached to the coalition that Hillsides leads. So I can definitely share a document once I have a chance to do so, but it also just takes time and conversations to really carve out what that looks like for your coalition, because not all coalitions look the same. Thank you, Ashley.
I have a question. So what projects is your coalition currently working on, and how do you have like community voice involved in that?
So we just wrapped up that community event last Saturday. That was a big project that we've been working on. Really involved, so I want to say it started, from the community provider organizations and the county departments that we worked with. But really, we don't just organize the community events. It's really listening to the families that we serve at each organization, hearing what they would want to get out of a community event, and then providing those. So that's kind of like how this coalition operates, in terms of listening to the voice of the community that we serve, and then providing and fulfilling the requests and what their needs are. So I would say that's kind of been one of our big projects, just wrapping that up. Next, looking forward, really just getting back to our regular scheduled programming with our monthly provider meetings, bringing folks together, and that platform will be holding in-person meetings, but really holding workshops. I think that'll be a big one, getting more families involved in workshops that we make available. I think that's going to be one of the big projects that we have on our plates in the next year. We actually have a board retreat that we're hosting in a couple of weeks. So that's really where we'll sit down and outline, these activities that we want to organize and promote to the families that we serve. But I think the workshops is going to be, really a really impactful way to reach the families that we serve. I also want to share, so as part of the coalition, we also have a community outreach committee. So we've reached out to specific members of our coalition to form this committee that is specifically focused on community outreach. So it's really, all of our activities, I think, are aligned with connecting to the community, hearing what they have to say, hearing what their needs are, and working with the community provider organizations in our coalition to make sure that we're fulfilling their needs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, if there aren't more questions, then we can dive back into the PowerPoint for some of these guided discussion questions. So for the group, how have you been successful with elevating community voice? So kind of wanting to see what have been your successes, and they can be similar or different. What have been some of the successes, and what are some of the challenges that you all have had in elevating community voice and engaging the community? It'd be great to hear about that, so we could identify some tools or support that would help. You don't have to answer all the questions. You can just answer one. If you're really struggling with elevating community voice, you can definitely just share what those challenges are.
Hi, my name is Kristen. I'm trying to think of some things. One of the things is we're trying to form an advisory team that includes parents for our FRCs to address a particular issue. And part of it is just like the person who asked the question about like forms and roles and responsibilities. It's just struggling a little bit with how to get the most bang for your buck out of meetings so that you're I'm not articulating this very well, but just figuring out how to structure, an advisory team and give the right amount of structure to it so that you're not limiting the discussion or the ideas or the framework, but so that you're actually accomplishing a particular goal. So I don't really necessarily expect an answer, but that's something I've been struggling with a little bit. As for tools, we've been participating in Listen for Good, which is a kind of your getting feedback from your constituents, using it for program planning. They have, a cycle around doing that and then giving information back to the community. And there's benchmarking opportunities with that. So that's something we've been trying to.
I haven't heard of that before. Does anyone have a parent advisory group as well? Oh, Josie, go ahead.
Hello, we don't have a parent advisory board, but we do have women's groups. We have one we actually have one in 3 different cities. We did stop during the pandemic, but we actually started in-person meetings again. And that's really has been helpful for us to elevate the community voice because they come and talk to us about their needs. And then based on that, we're able to find the resources that they need. For example, we have a women's group that is already meeting in rural areas. And from that group, we identified a group of promotoras that is helping UC Davis students to do a health needs assessment in their communities. So they're doing the students at UC Davis are going to do the training, and they're going to start in the last week of August to do the health need assessment. So that has been very helpful for us. And that's what I have.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like there's specific goals and purpose for those groups. I think Ruya, go ahead.
So I just wanted to add, we've done something recently where we've held focus groups with our Youth Moving On program. So hearing directly from transitional age youth that we serve and that use the services out of our drop-in center or our peer resource center. Really just asking them, what do you guys like and what do you not like and what would you like to see? And so it's been we actually did that this past summer, trying to get ideas for our service expansions. But it was really insightful into hearing, the benefits that they get from the peer resource center, as well as, things that they would like to see and trying to think of ways of how we can, meet their needs. So I think that's been really great, holding those focus groups, and a really great way to connect with them as well. But that's out of our peer resource center. It's not necessarily our family resource center, so it's a little different, but kind of operates very similarly.
Yeah, for focus groups, how what strategies do you have to get people to show up?
So the program manager of the Peer Resource Center advertised that we would be holding this focus group at a certain day at a certain time, and then incentivize them with gift cards. So definitely wanted to, reward them for their time and for taking the time to meet with us. And so we were able to give them gift cards for sitting down and meeting with us and sharing their ideas.
Do you also include like a translation and interpretation for folks?
We didn't need to for this,
Okay.
but if we needed to, there would have definitely been a way to accommodate that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. I was just thinking about, I believe it was what Kristen was saying as far as some of the challenges with putting together advisory groups. And I know there's training for that. So through the National Family Support Network, there's trainings for developing and sustaining effective parent advisory committees. There's actually some trainings coming up in September and October, so I can put the link in the chat. That might be helpful. Yeah, because I think that's definitely something that a lot of folks struggle with. In my experience, it's been challenging to run parent leadership or parent advisory groups when, like you said, the struggle with a purpose of the meeting. So what are the goals and the outcomes, as well as engaging people to continue to show up. And so it's a challenge when you have different people in every meeting. It's hard to move forward with what's going on in those meetings. So like Ria was sharing, incentivizing, I think, can be really helpful. But also having specific projects and purpose, like Josie was sharing, there's specific projects that the women's groups were working on. I think that can be really helpful as well. Because I think, you want to get the community voice feedback, but you have to figure out feedback on what specifically are you looking for. So it provides some direction and guidance around that. Any other questions, comments, responses to any of these discussion questions? Josie, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you had more you wanted to add.
No, let me bring it down. Thanks for letting me know.
No worries.
And then Victoria, it looks like Marta Flores had a comment, and the suggestion was, or what they do is short surveys to get feedback from the community, which seems like a really great tool.
Yeah, Marta, it would be great for you to share what that survey looks like. So what kind of outreach do you do for those kinds of surveys, and what do you put on the survey?
Hi everyone. Yeah, it was something that I thought of when I was reading the first question. We haven't really done as much as we could, due to staffing, and so we try to do things here and there. So just doing simple surveys just to get response from the community we serve, with demographic questions, but also like to know what kind of services we can provide that are needed in the community we work with. We work with families that have children 0 to 5. So there's not many resources for that community. So we try to just ask around and see what the needs are, so we can try to address it in our services or bring resources that address their concerns or needs. So surveys have been helpful, and it's since when there was pandemic time, they were very helpful since we didn't have direct access to families or in person with other community members. It was more successful doing them through surveys.
Definitely. Did you were they like sent via email or text message, or what was the best way to get people to access to the surveys?
For families, using social media, so posting the link on social media, emailing them, and then also making QR codes for this survey so that anyone could just scan it. I know we put flyers here and there around the community too, or we had like a QR sticker that our outreach staff would put around, and then anyone could scan it and fill it out.
Different strategies. Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing. Were there any other strategies that anyone want to share? Any challenges or questions you might have? Nope. Okay. Well, we can move on to the next slide then. So we're going to be wrapping up a bit early today, it looks like. But we do have another community voice webinar coming up, and Anna is going to be presenting with some of her colleagues. And this one is specifically around Head Start and Kadango, and that'll be on the 30th. And Brittany, could you put the registration in the chat? That would be great. So that one's going to be coming up on the 30th, same time, same place, and that'll be in 2 weeks. So I think many folks may have already received that communication via our member click system, but we're looking forward to that one too, especially as we continue to our work with our legislative advocacy and the FRC budget proposal. Let's see. And that's it. So thank you so much, Maria, for coming and sharing about your coalition building and the work you're doing with elevating community voice. And thank you everyone else for showing up to our webinar series. We do have an evaluation for you all to complete. So if you could take a couple minutes to fill that out, it'll really give us some good feedback on upcoming presentations and webinars. So Brittany, if you could put that in the chat as well, that would be great. Wonderful. Okay, well, thanks all. Hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. All right, I think that's it. Okay, see you later, Brittany.
Bye.